I got a question this week and I wanted to make a video and speak into it because I think this question speaks into something that is so relatable and something that so many of us struggle with so much when it comes to commitment and asking for commitment. So in this video, I'm going to speak into this question. And if you're someone who's wondering if asking for commitment is asking too much, this video is for you. So this is the question that came in, and the question comes from Stephanie. I'll read the question. She says, "Hi Shane, I've been seeing this guy for almost 6 months, and to be honest, I've pretty much fallen in love with him at this point. I want a deeper level of commitment from him, and I've tried to bring it up a few times, but when I do, the conversation really doesn't go anywhere. I feel like if I'm ever going to get an answer from him, I'll have to be a little more aggressive about it, but I don't want it to seem like pressure. Things are going really well and I don't want to mess it up. Is it asking too much to ask for more commitment from him? Hope you can answer this. Thanks." Well, Stephanie, I am going to answer that question in this video. And I want to say a few things about this, because the first thing I want to say is that one of the biggest misconceptions we have when it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships, is that there's no commitment at the beginning. There's zero commitment at the beginning. And then one day we go along and then all of a sudden, because we have a conversation or the relationship reaches a certain point, whatever it is, we go along and then one day we get commitment and then we have it from that point moving forward. That is a huge misconception about the way that relationships actually work. It works more like this. There should be some commitment at the very beginning when you first meet someone. If you just met them on a dating app and you're texting, there should be some commitment even in that first conversation. And there should be more commitment as you go along. So it's not like there's no commitment and then you get it and then you have it. But it's more like there's a small level of commitment in the very, very beginning, very early on. And then as you go along, that level of commitment gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And that's the way it should go. Now, what we often see are people who are in a relationship, they're just getting to know someone or they have an interest in someone, and that person is demonstrating no commitment, zero commitment, and they're trying to get them to have a higher level of commitment, but they haven't even shown that first level of commitment. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that, say you're on a dating app and you're just texting with someone for the first time. You're just getting to know this person for the first time. What is the appropriate level of commitment in that? Well, it's not as mysterious as it might sound. The appropriate level of commitment is they need to respond to your messages in a timely manner, right? So they're not waiting 7 hours to respond to your message. I mean, maybe in the first couple times, but once you get to texting with them, once you exchange numbers and you're going back and forth, if you constantly have to wait hours and hours and hours to get a response from them, or even days to get a response from them, they're showing you that they're not really that interested in talking to you. They're showing zero commitment where there should be at least a little bit of commitment. So that's the first thing to look for when it comes to commitment. Are they showing the appropriate level of commitment even early on? Now let's take it a step further. So on a first date, what's the appropriate level of commitment? The appropriate level of commitment on a first date is they need to show up, preferably on time. They need to be interested in you, interested in getting to know you. They need to show an authentic interest, make conversation, and so on. They need to express that they had a good time and that they would like to see you again. Those are the minimum levels of commitment for a first date. And if somebody doesn't at least show that minimum level of commitment, wanting a second date with that person doesn't really make sense. Now, going back to the question with Stephanie, and this is what it sounds like to me, is that early on in the relationship, and even probably as they've been going along for 6 months, those first levels of commitment were there, right? So maybe he was interested. They went out on a first date. They had a great connection. They're getting to know each other. And the commitment was there in the beginning, the first level of commitment, and then it expanded over time. But then they got to a certain point, and maybe my guess would be it happened about 3 months in, where all of a sudden the level of commitment stopped growing. So it was growing, and then all of a sudden right here it stopped where it should have kept going. So it just stopped. Now what starts to happen, and I think a lot of you will relate to this, and Stephanie, when you catch this video, let us know. But now what starts to happen is this level of commitment that should be growing, it stops growing at the 3 month mark, let's say, and then the relationship starts to feel stagnant. It starts to feel like it's not going anywhere. Why? Well, because the commitment was growing, 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 and then it stopped. And maybe it stopped around the conversation of what are we doing here? Or are we going to be boyfriend and girlfriend? Do you see this going anywhere? What do you want in this relationship? How do you really feel about me? Maybe that's where the commitment stopped. Maybe it got to that point where you started to have those conversations, and that's where the commitment stopped. But what you really want to understand here is that in a conscious relationship, a relationship where two people are authentically interested in each other and they authentically want to get to know each other, they're authentically considering and open to and interested in building a life together, the level of commitment is going to naturally continue to unfold over time. What it sounds like happened in this situation, Stephanie, is that the level of commitment stopped growing. And when the level of commitment stopped growing, maybe it continued growing for you, but it stopped growing for him. And when it stopped growing, you started to feel stagnant. That's when you started to get concerned. You started to go, what are we doing here? Is this really going anywhere? Am I investing my time in nothing? Is this person really interested in me? I don't know how they feel. If the level of commitment was continuing to grow and to grow and to grow, you wouldn't be feeling that stagnation. You would be feeling like the relationship was right on track, like it was going in the right direction. You would know where you stand. You would know where you're headed. You would know what you're looking for. When those conversations come up, he would have openly engaged in them with you, because as your level of commitment was deepening, his level of commitment was deepening as well. And so when those conversations come up, it would have been very natural to engage in them and to explore them and to see where the relationship is going. So what it sounds like to me is that you are in this relationship with a much higher level of commitment than he is. And you're trying to bring him up to your level of commitment, and he's not all in going willingly. Now, in the question you said, I feel like I'm going to have to get more aggressive with him to actually get an answer. Well, you might. You said you don't want it to feel like pressure. Well, this is what I want to say. When you are empowered in a situation like this, when you know what you want, when you know what you expect from people, and when you're not willing to compromise your values and your standards to settle for less, let me put this another way. When you're not willing to, let me say this, when you're willing to make the relationship you want, the ideal relationship that you want, when you're willing to make that relationship more important than the person you have it with. I want everyone to get that. When you make the relationship you want more important than the person you have it with. Meaning, I don't really care who the person is. I just want somebody that's going to treat me the way I want to be treated. They're going to respect me. They're going to honor me. They're going to be committed to me in the way I deserve commitment. And I'm looking for someone who's willing to step up to that plate. And if it's not this person, then it'll be someone else. And I'm open to that. I'm not attached to who it is. I'm just attached to the relationship I want. I'm attached to being loved in the way I deserve to be loved. I'm attached to having commitment in the way that I deserve to have commitment in my life. And when you make that relationship most important, that's when you're going to be empowered. When you make this person most important, that's when you're going to be disempowered. And you're going to sacrifice yourself and your values in order to accommodate that person and keep them in your life. So here's the thing. Do you have to be more aggressive? Do you have to put pressure on it? Well, that person might experience it that way. But it's not really about being aggressive or putting pressure on it. It's a very simple statement that says, listen, I'm looking for a higher level of commitment in a relationship. And I've asked you about it a few times, and you don't really seem to be interested in having that conversation. Look, I really like you. I would love to continue to explore this. I would love to see where it goes. But if you're not open and willing to step into those higher levels of commitment with me and create the kind of relationship that I'm looking for, we need to be really clear that there is no future for us here. And what I need you to do is I need you to honestly do some soul searching and find out if you see that with me, and let me know one way or the other. And when you say that, you are completely willing to let that person make their honest decision about what's true for them. And they can either get on board with you or they can get off. But you're owning your power. You're communicating what you want. You're asking for what you want. And is it asking too much? Let's go back to the original question. Is it asking too much? No, it's not. Maybe it's asking too much from this person, but if this person is not willing to give you the love that you crave in your heart and the commitment that you crave in your heart, you will never be happy with this person, and you will constantly be compromising yourself to accommodate for them. And what will ultimately happen if you stay together for 10 years is you'll resent them. And you'll feel like you spent your whole life investing in someone who never cared enough to invest back in you. Asking for commitment is not asking for too much. Asking for love the way you want it, the way you deserve it, is not asking too much. So have the courage to own your power, to ask for what you want, and you deserve it. Know that you deserve it. Thanks for the question, Stephanie. Thanks everyone else for watching today. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for joining in with me today, and we'll see you soon.